All right, folks, welcome back. We all know CZ fans are some of the most dedicated, if not slightly obsessive people in the firearms world. If you're not shooting a CZ, they want to know why. If you are, they want to know exactly what you did to the trigger. I've spent a lot of time recently running different CZs on the range, and instead of covering the obvious choices like the Shadow 2, I want to dig into the deeper parts of the lineup. From polymer duty guns to high-end custom carry builds, these pistols all bring something different to the table. Everyone talks about ergonomics and bore axis, but today, it's about how these guns feel when the timer is on and the pressure is real. We'll look at striker-fired options and refined hammer-fired classics tuned by shops like Cajun Gunworks, breaking down what actually matters on the clock. The slide-in frame design isn't just a CZ signature. It lowers the bore axis, reduces muzzle flip, and delivers a recoil impulse that comes straight back into your hand. These guns feel like they were designed by people who actually shoot. By the end, we'll see why CZ pistols have earned their reputation for reliability, speed, and that natural pointability competitive and defensive shooters swear by. Number 9. CZ P07. When we talk about the entry point into the hammer-fired polymer world for this brand, we have to start with the CZ P07. This is the compact brother to the larger duty guns, and it features the Omega trigger system, which is a bit of a polarizing topic for some of the purists out there. The beauty of the Omega system is its simplicity and the fact that you can swap between a decocker and a manual safety depending on how you like to carry. On the range, the recoil impulse is very manageable because of that low bore axis that is synonymous with the brand. The slide actually rides inside the frame rails rather than outside, which gives you a very slim profile and helps keep that muzzle flipped to a minimum. I've found that with standard 9mm 115 grain ball ammo, the gun tracks very predictably. The texture on the frame is aggressive enough to keep it locked in your hand without being so sharp that it tears up your skin during an all-day range session. It is a workhorse, plain and simple. It might not have the flair of the competition models, but if you want something that is going to go bang every time you pull that double-action trigger, this is a solid place to start. The reset on the trigger is decent for a factory gun, though it does have a bit of that polymer-on-polymer stacking feel before it breaks. It is the kind of gun that you can beat up, throw in a holster, and trust that the finish is going to hold up against the elements. I have run this gun through mud and dust, and the internal components are simple enough that a quick field strip and a bit of oil get it right back into the fight. The nitride finish on the slide is incredibly durable, resisting the kind of holster wear that usually eats away at lesser firearms. When you are looking at a compact carry option that offers the safety of a double-action first pull, the CZ P07 stands out because it does not feel like a compromise. It feels like a tool that was over-engineered for its price point. Number 8, CZ P09. Moving up in size, we have the CZ P09, which is essentially the full-size version of the P07. This thing is a beast when it comes to capacity, usually rocking 19 rounds in the mag, which gives you a lot of firepower before you have to worry about a reload. Because it has a longer sight radius, I noticed my groups at 25 yards were significantly tighter compared to the compact models. The frame is polymer, which keeps the weight down for a gun of this size, but it still has enough mass to soak up the energy from higher pressure 9mm loads. If you are running plus P ammo through this, you will notice it stays remarkably flat. The ergonomics are classic CZ, with a grip that feels like it was molded specifically for a human hand rather than being a blocky afterthought. I like the interchangeable backstraps on this model because it allows you to really dial in that reach to the trigger, which is crucial when you are dealing with a double-action pull that starts pretty far forward. The serrations on the slide are a bit thin, which is a common complaint with these guns since there is less surface area to grab onto, but once you get the technique down for racking the slide from the front or using the rear sights as a ledge, it becomes second nature. It is a duty-grade firearm that offers a lot of value for the price point, especially for shooters who prefer a hammer-fired system over the modern striker-fired craze. I spent an afternoon doing rapid-fire transitions with the CZ P09, and the way the weight is distributed makes it feel very balanced in the hand. It does not feel front-heavy even with a full magazine, and the polymer frame has just enough flex to take the sting out of those higher-velocity 124 grain loads. For a home defense gun or a duty sidearm, having 19+1 rounds of 9mm in a package this reliable is a massive advantage. Number 7, CZ Shadow 2. I know I said I would avoid the obvious, but you cannot have a serious conversation about this brand without mentioning the full-size CZ Shadow 2. This is the gun that changed the production division in competitive shooting. It is a heavy, all-steel masterpiece that weighs in at over 44 ounces, which means it basically has zero recoil. When you fire a 9mm round out of a gun this heavy, the muzzle barely moves, allowing you to get back on target almost instantly. The trigger out of the box is phenomenal, with a single action brake that is usually around 3 pounds or even less. The ergonomics are enhanced with an undercut trigger guard and a high beaver tail that lets you get your hand as high as possible on the grip. This reduces the leverage the gun has over your wrist, making it feel like an extension of your arm. The blue aluminum grips are iconic, but more importantly, they are thin enough to allow for a very secure wraparound grip. The fiber optic front sight and blacked out rear target sight are perfect for fast transitions between steel plates. I have spent hours doing transition drills with this gun, and the weight actually helps with the momentum of moving between targets. Though it can be a bit much if you are not used to swinging that much steel around, it is a specialized tool built for speed and accuracy. And while it is not something you would ever want to carry on your belt for a stroll through the woods, it is the king of the range for a reason. The internal components are polished to a mirror finish from the factory, which is why that double action pull feels like sliding on ice. There is no grit, no hesitation, just a smooth roll until the hammer falls. When you switch to single action, the reset is so short you might miss it if you are not paying attention. It is a pure performance machine that makes every shooter better the moment they pick it up. Number 6, CZ75. Next on the bench is the grandfather of them all, the CZ75. This is a timeless classic, and it is the foundation upon which almost everything else on this list was built. This particular one I have been running is a single action only model, and let me tell you, the trigger is absolutely insane. It has a crisp glass-like brake that reminds me of a high-end 2011. The only reason this one does not sit higher on my personal favorited list is because I made the mistake of chambering it in .40 caliber a long time ago, and for some reason, this specific setup just does not like to run reliably. It is a shame because when it does work, the return to zero is incredibly fast. The steel frame gives it a very solid, planted feel, and the aesthetics are just unmatched. It has that old school cool factor that you just do not get with modern polymer guns. The slide-to-frame fit on these older style 75s is often surprisingly tight, which contributes to the inherent accuracy of the platform. Even though mine is a bit of a safe queen now because of the reliability issues with the 40S&W chambering, I still appreciate the engineering that went into it. It is the gun that proved the short recoil tilting barrel system could be refined into something truly elegant. If you ever find one of these in 9mm, grab it, because it is a pure joy to shoot when the mechanics are tuned correctly. The history of the CZ75 is rooted in the Cold War era, and you can feel that rugged military spec heritage in the way the safety clicks and the way the magazine locks into place. It is a piece of history that still holds its own against modern designs. The grip profile of the 75 is what every other CZ model tries to emulate because it is arguably the most comfortable handgun grip ever designed. It fills the hollow of your palm perfectly, giving you total control over the firearm during rapid fire. Number 5, CZ P10. Now we are getting into the striker fire territory with the CZ P10. If the Glock 19 is considered the gold standard for a striker-fired pistol, I am going to go out on a limb and say the P10 is a better gun right out of the box. The ergonomics are light years ahead, with a grip angle that feels much more natural for most shooters. The trigger is also significantly better than a stock Glock, with a cleaner break and a very positive tactile reset. I actually like this one so much that I sent it off to Cajun Gunworks to have some work done. They put in a very light trigger that makes this thing incredibly fast for a striker-fired gun. Now, I have to give a disclaimer here. Once you start doing that kind of trigger work, the gun is no longer technically drop safe, so you have to be extra careful. But on the range, the performance is undeniable. It is light, it is fast, and it is just as reliable as any other duty gun I have tested. I did a little experiment with a primer-only round just to show the trigger response, and it is instantaneous. The slide serrations on the P10 are much more aggressive than on the hammer-fired guns, giving you a lot of purchase when you are doing press checks or clearing malfunctions. It is a rugged, reliable, and affordable option that really challenges the dominance of the bigger brands in the striker-fired market. If you are a die-hard fan of other brands, I highly recommend you just try a P10 once. It might just change your mind about what a factory polymer gun can be. The texturing on the grip is often called the cheese grater by some shooters because it is so aggressive, but when your hands are sweaty or bloody, that is exactly what you want. It stays glued to your hand through every shot, ensuring that your grip never shifts during a high-stress string of fire. The mag release is also reversible and very easy to activate without shifting your grip, which is a huge plus for southpaws or anyone who values fast reloads. Number 4, CZ Shadow 2 Carry. Moving on to number 4, we have the CZ Shadow 2 Carry. This is a relatively new offering that was designed to address some of the concerns people had with the compact version. The big change here is that it features a decocker instead of a manual safety, and it is built to be drop safe, which is a huge deal if you are planning on actually carrying this thing. It has that classic Shadow 2 feel, but in a package that is slightly shorter and easier to conceal. The ergonomics are just as good as the full-size model, fitting into the hand with that perfect CZ contour. However, there are some trade-offs. To make it a decocker and drop safe, the trigger pull is a bit different. The double action is a little heavier and has a bit of a gritty feel compared to the competition models, and the reset is pushed a little further forward. On the range, I noticed that the recoil is a bit snappier than the ported models I have been running. When I did some build drills from a low ready, I was hitting splits around 0.50 on the double action, which is decent, but you can feel the gun fighting you a little more. The hammer will drop if you get rough with it, but the internal safeties keep it from going bang, which provides that peace of mind you need for an everyday carry piece. It is a beautiful gun that brings that competition pedigree to a platform you can actually trust on your hip. The aluminum frame helps shave off some weight for daily carry, but it still maintains enough rigidity to keep the accuracy high. I found that at 15 yards, the CZ Shadow 2 Carry was capable of putting every round into a hole the size of a silver dollar if I did my part. It bridges the gap between a pure race gun and a practical defensive tool. And while the trigger is not as light as the Shadow 2, it is still miles ahead of most other carry guns on the market. Number 3. CZ P9 Nocturne. At number 3, we have the CZ P9 Nocturne, which is the latest evolution of the polymer hammer-fired line. This is essentially the updated version of the P09, and it comes with some modern features like an optics cut slide and improved texturing. Now, out of the box, I will be honest, I was not a huge fan. It felt very snappy, almost like shooting a compact .40 caliber. It had a weird muzzle flip that made it hard to stay on target for rapid-fire strings. To fix that, I sent it over to Impact Machine and had them do some massive porting on the barrel and slide. They basically gaped the ports out, and the difference is night and day. It now shoots flatter than almost anything else I have on the truck. The trigger is still a bit of a weak point for me. It is gummy and has a lot of take-up before you hit the wall, and the reset feels like it takes a mile to get back to. Even with those complaints, the flat shooting nature of the ported Nocturne makes it a blast at the range. I was able to pull off some 13 split times, which is about as fast as I can physically move my finger on a trigger with a reset this long. It has 0 malfunctions through about 300 rounds, even after the porting work, which speaks to the reliability of the underlying CZ design. It is a gun that requires a little bit of work to reach its full potential, but once you get it there, it is a formidable tool. The optics cut is deep, allowing for a lower co-witness with your iron sights, which is a critical feature for anyone using this in a professional or defensive capacity. The new texturing on the Nocturne is a significant improvement over the old P09, providing a more consistent feel across the entire surface of the grip. It is a modern take on a proven design, and once you tune out the snappiness with some porting, it becomes a high-speed performer. Number 2, CZ Shadow 2 Compact. Coming in at number 2 is the CZ Shadow 2 Compact. This gun is essentially a shrunk-down version of the full-size Shadow 2, keeping the manual safety and the incredible trigger but in a more manageable size. This one has also been to Impact Machine for porting, and the results are spectacular. The recoil is insanely flat, making it feel like you are shooting a much larger and heavier firearm. The double-action trigger on the Compact feels significantly smoother than the one on the carry model. It does not have that same gritty resistance. When I ran this through some build drills, I was hitting single-action shots at 0.31, and the double-action was a smooth 0.36. You do not feel like you are fighting the gun at all. The reason this ranks so high is its versatility. You could use this for concealed carry, if you are comfortable with a manual safety. You could use it for compact division competitions, or you could just have it as a top-tier range toy. I swapped out the factory grips for some G10 scales to give it a bit more bite, and it feels perfect in the hand. It points naturally, tracks beautifully, and the ports keep that front sight from ever leaving the window of the optic. It is a high-performance machine that justifies its price tag every time you hear the steel ring. The balance of this gun is almost perfect. The weight of the aluminum frame provides enough mass to kill the recoil, while remaining light enough to carry all day without fatigue. The craftsmanship on the Shadow 2 Compact is evident in every detail, from the way the slide glides on the rails to the positive click of the manual safety. It is a premium firearm for the shooter who demands the absolute best in a compact package. Number 1, CZ SP01. Finally, at the number 1 spot, we have the CZ SP01. Now, if you look at mine, you might not recognize it immediately because I collaborated with Impact Machine to create a custom PewView slide for it. One of my biggest gripes with the factory SP01 is that the slide is very thin and tapered at the top, making it hard to get a good grip for racking, especially if you have an optic mounted. We squared the slide off, added aggressive knurling and serrations, and cut it specifically for an aim-point acro. This gun is a beast. It is a full-size, all-steel frame with a 19-round capacity and a single-action trigger that is purely divine. There is a tiny bit of take-up, a crisp wall, and then a break that is so clean it feels like a physical click in your brain. The reset is short and very positive. On the range, even with a 5-pound mailbox of an optic on top, the gun is incredibly fast and flat. I was hitting 109 on build drills with ease. The weight of the steel frame, combined with the custom porting and the improved ergonomics of the slide, makes this the ultimate CZ in my collection. It feels like a high-end custom 2011, but with that unmistakable CZ soul. It is comfortable, it is reliable, and it makes shooting fast feel like cheating. If you want the absolute pinnacle of what this platform can offer, this is it. The SP01 has a full-length accessory rail which I have used to mount a heavy-duty light, adding even more weight to the front of the gun to virtually eliminate muzzle rise. The custom work we did on the slide makes it much more functional for high-stress manipulations, and the aim-point acro provides a bomb-proof aiming solution. This gun has seen thousands of rounds of 124 grain and 147 grain 9mm, and it has never once failed to cycle. It is the gold standard for what a steel frame duty or competition handgun should be, and in its custom form, it is simply untouchable. So there you have it, a deep dive into the CZ lineup and why these guns have such a cult following. From the budget-friendly P10 that outshines the competition to the fully custom SP01 that can go toe-to-toe with the best race guns in the world, there is a CZ for every type of shooter. The technical takeaway today is all about the trade-offs between a decocker and a manual safety, and how porting can transform a snappy compact into a flat shooting laser. Remember that a manual safety often allows for a simpler, crisper trigger mechanism, while a decocker adds a layer of safety for those who prefer the double-action first pull for carry. If you are looking to improve your speed, I want you to try a simple drill. Set up a target at 7 yards and practice your double-action to single-action transition. Focus on that first heavy pull, maintaining your sight alignment, and then immediately finding that short reset for the follow-up shot. It is the best way to master the hammer-fired platform and understand the timing of your specific firearm. I want to hear from you guys in the comments. Are you team decocker, or do you prefer the manual safety for that better trigger pull? And which of these would you pick as your primary sidearm if you had to head out the door right now? Hit the subscribe button if you want to see more technical breakdowns and range tests like this one. I appreciate you guys spending time on the range with me today and nerding out over these Czech masterpieces. Stay sharp.